This is Laughing with Loss, a podcast about healing with humor. I'm Rachel, chef by day, Stacy's emotional support human by night.
And I'm your hostess with the mostest, Stacy. I am a hairdresser by day, professional peopler by night.
Yes, and welcome. So last week we touched on a lot of topics. I think this week we're going to touch on, what was the acronym we made? DCD?
Yes.
What does that stand for?
Death, cancer, and divorce.
Ooh, juicy. But before we kick off into that, I want to apologize to the listeners for the lisp that you'll be hearing throughout the next 4 months. We will be laughing about the loss of my underbite, as I recently got Invisalign. No, we're not sponsored by Invisalign, but it is interesting. I do feel like, when you're in high school and you have those mouth guards in your mouth. Did you ever wear those?
No, I went to private school. We didn't have to.
Boring. Okay.
And I was never fortunate enough to have braces or like a retainer. That's like a cool kid thing.
But were you coordinated enough to play sports?
Obviously. Oh.
As she is hurts herself on the table. Okay, cool. So these are super fun. All right, so let's get into it. I think today
we're doing it.
Let's start with the first one. So death, right? Mm-hmm. I think a huge thing that really got us started into this podcast was the death of your father.
Right.
Would you concur?
I do concur.
Okay. So, I know we heard a little bit about this story last time. We heard about the chapel and the dark room and the throwing up in the corner. You remember all those touch points we
I don't
made?
remember the chapel thing. However, yes, me vomiting in the corner in the hospital room, I was there.
Yes. Okay, cool. So I think if you've heard our pilot episode, then you understand. You know how Stacey's father died. I think now I want to talk a little bit with you and Tucker Carlson you for a minute about the aftermath of that, right? So
Way to go, Tucker.
Way to go, pal. Okay, so let's talk about that. So the shock is over, right? I'm still in the hospital, and you have to go. Now what happens? You have to leave the hospital. What do you even do?
Yeah, so that was that was super strange, right? We are there. He is dead. We are all just staring at him. Aren't you going to get up and leave with us? What is happening?
Obviously, he didn't.
He did not get up. However, we did have to leave.
You did have to get up.
But everyone was really great. It's not like they were pushing us out
I would hope they would be great. Your dad just died.
But I never really know. Right? I've never had to do that.
You only get one dad.
Correct. But there were other dead people prior to. So I've never been rushed out of anywhere, but it's 2024. You get rushed out of everything.
But even, I don't even think I know this part of the story because I'm hooked up to machines and the nurses are you got to get back upstairs. So I don't even know what happened I also was on an insane amount of morphine and drugs. So that whole episode's kind of like a bad dream to me, so I don't really even remember how I got upstairs.
I think that's the point is we all experience the same event in completely different ways. The same, that one thing happened, you experienced it one way, I experienced it another way, and it's impossible to experience the same event the same way.
Obviously. Okay, so tell the listeners what happened. So you leave the hospital.
Right.
What comes next? Because I know there was you had to check out his motorcycle, do the mom thing,
Yeah. I'm trying to play that, right? So all right, Dad, and then we're oh, I guess we'll leave, right? It's me and you and Mom and Lori and Mike. And this is just a side note as to giving you the big the whole version, just so you can understand how hard it was. But so I see Dad's helmet, right? And it's cracked up the back, and you're what the hell?
Was the helmet in the hospital room?
Yeah, the FHP or whoever it was. I think it was the FHP had it. Turns out this kid sees the accident. Quite a few people saw the accident, but this kid stopped because he saw my dad's cell phone fly. He literally stopped to pick up and steal my father's cell phone.
I was going to ask, do you think he was trying to be a good Samaritan? Or
100% he wasn't, because the FHP knew who this person was.
Oh, God.
So the kid calls, and I'm distraught, right?
Because you see your dad's number showing up on your phone. Or he called from your dad's number?
I called my dad. I can't even remember.
Okay.
But it was wild because the FHP knew this kid. And the kid was hey, like, I can help you with your dad's phone. Just, give me the code to unlock it.
Ew, gross.
Ew, what are you talking about?
No.
So I must have called the phone, right? The FHP, I tell him what happens. He knows who the kid is. He had just had a run-in with this kid, like either that day or that week.
What a coincidence.
Just stupid. And so that was like another layer, right? Because now somebody has my VIP's private device.
Yeah.
And that is sending me. Like, I'm already over the edge. So that happens. The helmet, the phone. Deb is like...
wailing.
Not even knowing what's happening, right? But Mike and Lori, like, they were able to help with that part. You started calling people for me because I was like, I don't even know what to do.
Yeah.
But I called my biological mom. I called Mary, and my sister was living here at the time, to let them know what had happened. But it was also like strange, like that just 100% had not kicked in. Like,
right.
Oh, my dad's dead.
And did you guys, what was the first place you went after you left the hospital?
I think I went home.
To our house? Yeah.
And then, like, I packed up some stuff. Vanessa came to the house to stay with the dogs.
Right.
Packed up some stuff and went to Mom's house. And, like, we were just, like, navigating that. And she had just, like, shut off.
Yeah. But I remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, there was a little bit of tension between you and your mom for the first couple of days after that.
There was, and I didn't really understand it. And I think we've talked about it a bit, but... You know me, business as usual.
Right.
Like, what are we going to do? Sit around and cry? Yeah, probably that's what you
should.
And
I think that's like a little bit of your fight or flight mode. Like, you tend to operate really good in high crisis situations. So this was like the most high crisis you've ever been in, right? So you were like, boom, 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 boom.
Right.
I can't get you to do that for anything else.
No.
So, like any project around the house, there is zero to-do list. But death of your dad, you were like the most productive human I've ever seen. Or for the
manager of my salon or the owner of my salon, I can't seem to show up on time for work either.
That is true.
Thanks for hanging in there, guys.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. So yeah, that whole thing, right? So I'm like, business, we got to get there. Where's his stuff? Is there insurance? What do we need? We need bank statements. We need that. And when somebody dies, there are all these like little skeletons. These are the skeletons.
Okay.
All these little skeletons start coming out, right?
But did you know how to do any of this stuff because your Aunt Carla died?
Yeah.
Your grandmother died. So you already knew the process. You were like,
and not a nan person was ready for death.
Trained for this.
Searching drawers, trunks, this, that, searching, because heaven forbid anybody is ready.
Well, but your dad was young too.
Yeah, but people still die. Like, we need not assume like, oh, I'm 92 and I'm gonna die. But like, you can die at 63. It's like very much a thing.
Right.
His sister was like not even 60 yet. I think she was going to be 60 the next month. I don't know. I have to think about that. But anyway, so we're trying to figure that out. Mom's name isn't on as many things as she thought it was. So now we're trying to do that. Again, luckily we have Lori and we have Mike and we have other people to help us so much. But in that time, you're like navigating death and trying to find financials and insurance and all of that. Right. So again, wrapping into the humor, I'm good at making a quick joke, right? The whole time. Of course he's dead, and of course we know nothing, right?
But I want to double back for a minute and Oprah Winfrey you for a second. So tell us about your dad is dead. You've left the hospital.
Yeah.
You God knows what's going through your head. You walk into your parents' house. What is the first feeling you feel? Do you remember that?
Nothing.
Nothing. You feel nothing. You're just numb at this point.
Yeah. One foot in front of the other.
Man.
What are you supposed to do?
That's crazy.
But how are you supposed to be like, oh, my dad's dead? Well,
I think most people would like cry.
Oh, I was sobbing. I was vomiting, sobbing.
Over,
oh, absolutely.
Lay in your dad's bed, not be able to move.
That is not me, girl. Not doing
I'm just saying, like, most people would
right.
have an emotional response. But I think you put on your dad's bicycle helmet.
Oh, I did.
Started to walk around the house.
I did.
Your dad was an avid cycler.
I did. And I think I touched on this last time. There are these things, these last minute things that you have to hold on to. And sometimes you don't realize it in that moment. But I encourage everyone to do this, right? And not in a creepy way. But remember, there was a bag of my dad's personal effects, which was very small because he was on his bike, you know? And I mean, people that know me know this, but there was his motorcycle keychain, right? Yeah. And it was still in the ignition. And that keychain, this is going to sound, because I know it sounds so weird, like coming out of my mouth, but anyone that's experienced loss like this gets it, because I've talked to clients who absolutely, they've done the same thing. But that keychain had a little bit of his blood from the accident on it.
Yeah.
Remember that? Mm-hmm. And
this is interesting.
And I held on to that because if you break it down, it's like that was the last living bit of him. Like that was it. And yes, I'm sure it sounds strange, but
sounds a little morbid.
I don't even care. But when when your VIP is like RIP, like he's never coming back, right? And his blood, made my blood. It's very strange. It's just strange how all that shit happens in life, and you're like, ooh, I'm weird, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But am I weird? No, I'm not. So, but yeah, I am. But I wasn't in that moment.
Yeah.
So yes, I hold on to that. I hold on to the pocket knife for so many reasons.
And where do you keep the pocket knife?
It's either in my bra or in my pocket
at all times. I mean, you've made it through like airports with this thing. Yeah. Do you have it right now?
I have it.
Boom. And you wore that on your wedding day in your bra.
Oh, on my wedding day.
On our wedding day. Yeah.
On the wedding day. And it helped to cut off an undergarment that I no longer wanted to wear.
Sure did.
Sure did.
Sure did.
In the bathroom of Oxford Exchange.
Okay, love that.
Yes. Yes, we got through airports with this.
Yeah.
Like in my bra. Way to go, TSA. So yeah, in my bra, we got all the way to Arizona.
Yeah.
And just had it chilling.
Just had it.
But again, this was on him, right? This was on his person. And these are things that he had my whole life. Like in his pocket, Eric was always going to have a pocket knife. Always to make sure his nails were good. Always. But cut something if need be.
Okay, so let's fast forward a little bit, right? I really love those sounds. Those are really
I know. You're welcome.
Okay, so now we're at the funeral. Okay. I know.
Do you remember I just found that Snapchat of you?
Oh, talk about the Snapchat. So because that was really hilarious.
We love Snapchat memories. So it's
like a couple days after your dad had died.
I don't know if it was, but we were like trying to find clothes, right? What do you even wear? What's appropriate? What's not? And I say appropriate because like fashion wise. And I'm like, what do we do? So
it was also the funeral was outside because of COVID.
Yes. COVID. So on the Snapchat, we're trying on clothes for my mom on FaceTime, and you're like, "Ooh, look at this! I got this from Amazon. The pants fit just right. Ooh, girl, look at me!" And our Amazon
wait, let's go
outfit.
back because I just wanted to preface with I was on so many drugs from coming out of the hospital. I mean, I was having to drink a bottle of baby Benadryl a day. I was on 6 steroids a day. I mean,
You can't even see straight.
I couldn't even see straight. I couldn't write my name. I was about to quit my whole job. I mean, my life decisions were ridiculous. So the fact that an Amazon outfit
oh my God,
fit me just had me in a tizzy. It had me in a tizzy, girl.
Came in clutch too.
Okay.
But yeah, now it's the day of the service. Remember I got the fresh flowers and I used the rim of his bicycle.
Oh, yeah, that was really cool.
Because he was also a cyclist. What didn't Dad do? But he was a cyclist as well. So remember we did that. Yeah. And what did we even do that day? I don't even know what we did that day.
But how did you even prepare for his eulogy?
I don't know. Remember I had all those cards set up and this is what I'm going to say. I said nothing.
I think you got up there and you threw the cards.
And I'm chewing on my gum and but who even cares?
Yeah, nobody. Everyone was on the edge of their seat waiting for you to speak. I mean, that was a Meryl Streep moment.
Because I closed it up. Remember Jim and Trey and Mike, they all talked and all that. So there was no preparation.
Yeah.
Luckily we had...
there was not a dry eye in that house.
Well, I don't even remember being there, so I don't know. But we had so many people helping us, which made it a lot easier.
Right. Isn't it crazy how your brain just... will erase certain things in order to protect you. That's a whole other episode with a therapist in tow, but it's really crazy.
Yes, it was. Okay. I mean, the whole thing was wild, and I really think I just showed up.
Yeah, and I think what a lot of people say is, and I've had a lot of people die in my life too, right? It's, the death happens and you have this week before the wake or the funeral, and then the funeral happens, and then everyone's surrounding you for the next 2 or 3 weeks. But it's when everybody goes back to work, everyone's life has to go back to normal, that the quiet ensues, right? And then really the reality sets in.
Right. Now, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but it takes about 6 months for me to like really feel the effects of something so strong, because 6 months you've now gone through a couple things that that person isn't there for.
Like birthdays, holidays.
For us, it was the wedding.
Yeah. Oh.
So we had that to like kind of work up towards, and then we went on our honeymoon. But then it was like my birthday. So many of those things happen, right?
There were so many firsts for you. This is my first this without my dad. My first this without my dad.
Right. So that, I mean, and this is another one of those things how people do, like, I don't become a recluse or anything like that, but I function better with not a lot of people around me.
Yeah.
Where mom,
you're definitely very independent.
It's not about, I don't know if it's about being independent. It's just about, I don't know. I'll circle back to that word. But, you know, mom really has always wanted people around her. Yeah. But in this instance, I think we just wanted few people around
certain
us.
People. You wanted certain people.
Right. And in that instance, I always want my dad. I want to be alone, but I want my dad. You don't have him. Right. So I had you, thank God. But
do you remember, I'm going to touch on that memory really quick, see if you remember this, that we went to your mom's house and we were to sleep on an air mattress. This was like either before the funeral or after. Remember, your mom didn't want to be alone, so people were like taking shifts, sleeping at her house. I was still on all the drugs and the steroids, and like the alarm was going off every 4 hours for me to take the Benadryl, the medicine, and I would like have to wake up in the middle of the night, and I would just be sobbing because I didn't want to have to take more medicine. But we were sleeping on the shitty air mattress on the floor of your parents' house.
I had that.
Oh my God. Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to derail you.
No, it's not derailing, right? It's part of the whole thing. Yeah, so that, I mean, right, that happened, and then moving forward, it's just your first everything without your everything, which is that, I mean, that was really challenging. Yeah. But throughout the whole thing, this is always what I want to circle back to, is the humor part of it. Not that situation was funny. There were things that happened due to that death that made things a little
but I think there was pockets of time, right, where you deal with it in a certain way. You and I are super funny together. We laugh a lot, and sometimes that's the only way to deal with it. If you don't laugh, you'll start crying. If you start crying, you never stop, right? Right.
And again, right, he's dead, and the first thing too is, of course he's dead. Why not?
And I kept pushing you to go to therapy, and what did you always used to tell me?
I don't know.
You would be like, what am I going to talk about? He's dead.
But that's
like, well, that's the whole thing you fucking talk about.
But why?
Because you weren't processing.
What makes you say that, though?
Well, I just think that you were, I mean, I guess that's part of like why we have this podcast, right? You were just very much like, okay, it's fine. He's dead. Here we go. And you were just like moving through it really quickly. But to your point, what you were just about to say is like, it took you 6 months to really let it sink in, because once around that 6 month mark, things started to really hit you, and it was
then it was another death, and then so there were other things that happened. But in all fairness, I never tucked anything under a rug. I did deal with it, because I did go to see Marissa. There was nothing for me to deal with, because he is dead. I have acknowledged that, and I don't have to keep moving. I choose to keep moving. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that.
That's a good way to say that, like, for people that might be going through it.
You go through it, and you don't have to, you choose to. And we always need to give ourselves credit for that, because there is a choice. There's always a choice, and it's not the best choice. But there's always a choice.
And I think that's one thing that's amazing about you, and why this podcast really came to fruition, because you always go through it, right? Like, you never go around it. You never use drugs, alcohol, anything like that to cope with the pain. Right. You always go through it in a way that, like, maybe to the outside world you're not processing or dealing with it, but you're dealing with it in your own way with humor, right? Like dark humor. Right. So it's just, and that's just might be your way of coping.
Right. And I always want to circle back to that with all the, what to some people, the heaviness of maybe some of the content that we'll have. And to me, these things are no longer heavy, right? Because my brain is so black and white. These are things that happen, are going to continue to happen. So we just like find our way through it and not around it. Yeah. And also, let's note, I had been mourning my dad's death for like decade.
Okay, wait, but like explain that to people, because they're not going to understand what that means.
Right. So I had worked majority of my adult life through my dad's death, even though he was alive. It was a really huge fear of mine, because I knew what that would mean long term. And I don't think I'll ever be able to put into words the like how much my dad was my other half, right? And not in a weird way, but there's something sometimes about somebody that has literally made you like half of why you're alive, right? And for me and my dad was the only person who understood my idiosyncrasies, like just things like about being alive or
your epilepsy,
my epilepsy, but why I would disconnect from people, or self-preservation. So my dad was always my person, and I knew once he was gone, everything was gone. And so I worked through that fear,
right,
all the time. And I don't suggest it to anyone because it's not always the best, but it's what I did, right? So when that happened, I mean, that was like gonzaroonie.
Right, like you feel like you had already lived through it so many times in your head that you were just like, okay, well, I've seen this movie before.
And that's the other thing about me, right? Like sometimes, and this might sound strange to some people, and maybe I'll clarify it moving forward, but sounds very weird. But like, I tend to see things.
Weird,
I know,
so it's fine.
I know. But like, by whose standards? Like, come on. Like, no.
It's fine. We all love you.
We're all here. We're here.
It's fine.
We're here. Is I kind of like see these things before they happen, right?
Yeah, and you do have this like,
and then it comes to fruition.
Almost, yeah.
I'm not manifesting it.
Yeah.
Let's make that very clear, because I wouldn't manifest that. But you kind of like see these things happening, and that one was the inevitable.
Yeah.
But I knew it was going to be too early. It was absolutely untimely.
Tragic.
And it was going to be absolutely tragic.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
Okay, so let's jump ahead now, right? Cool. So we've touched on the dad. Everyone knows dad premise, building blocks of this podcast.
But the funny things that happened in it.
Well, yeah, right? The funny things that happened that were obviously how we got here.
Right.
But just so people understand the backstory.
Correct.
Of kind of,
but some of those humor things, right? Like at Carla's funeral, I had this like wand, this like fairy wand that went gring. I hop up. It's what I did. Shelly will probably remember that. I like bow my way in, and I'm going to give this eulogy. It's just a thing.
Yeah.
Dad, what did I say? I was like, well, fuck this. I'm gonna say what I'm
cursing.
Gonna say. Exactly.
You were chewing gum.
Who cares? And there's nothing wrong with that.
It was so
right?
funny. Yeah.
And still to this day, like my girlfriends at work. God bless you all for listening to the same thing over and over. I'm like, oh yeah, guys, did I tell you my dad's dead? And they're,
oh my God, you do that to me all the time.
I know.
Now I just play back with you. I'm like, you've never mentioned that. I've never even heard that you had a dad.
Your dad was your best friend.
No. Okay.
No. So it's not funny, but there's also like some laughs in there you have to have it. You have to have it.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Ready? So we're going to talk about, we're going to touch a little bit on cancer. The cancer. Right. And so and I want to touch a little bit of things that you love people would say to you, but then also you would hate people say to you. So we
are definitely going to talk a lot about that in this podcast.
Okay, great. Here we go. Sure. So we know you got in an accident. Right. That's how we found out about the cancer. Right. And then talk to us about what telling people you had cancer felt like. Like to me on my end, it was like this huge, like we gotta sit people down.
I know.
And then it was almost like people were like, oh, wow, I thought you were going to say you had like breast cancer or something. It's like, wait, what? She still has fucking cancer, people. I mean, people were just like, oh, it's no big deal.
Right. And that's very
interesting. We're not telling people you have a melanoma, for God's sakes.
Well, no, melanoma will kill you. Real with a quickness.
You know what I mean?
Something this big ends up cutting out this big. It ain't good. It ain't good. But yes, let me tell you what. Don't ever tell someone, no matter what that cancer is, oh, that's the easiest cancer.
Yeah. Or if you had to get a cancer, that's the one to get.
Oh my God.
Get out of here. That? People said that.
I mean.
Or this is my favorite. Oh yeah, I knew somebody had that. He's fine.
Or, oh yes, like there was a manager next door at the Publix to where I work. Oh yes, he had the same cancer. Oh really? Yeah, he's dead. We went to the funeral.
Yeah.
Rock on. That's neat.
Thanks for telling me that. I feel good about that. But I think one of the things we were obviously nervous about you having cancer was you going under anesthesia. I mean, you were panic stricken.
I'm like, all right, so I got the cancer, but what about the anesthesia?
Yeah, you could, not that you could care less, but you knew you were going to come out clean from the cancer. It was the anesthesia you thought was going to kill you.
But I can't say I didn't care, but I'm going to say I didn't care. I'm like, oh, I don't care. Like the cancer,
You're like,
right?
take it out.
I'm desensitized to it.
Yeah, you are. You really were. I mean, I was bawling like in the
my God,
shower.
it was so
I thought you were gonna
sad.
die. I was like, she's gonna have to go through chemo. She's gonna lose all her hair. Then
Right.
mostly I'm sad because I'm gonna shave my hair off and as like to show support. Bald is not gonna be a good look for me.
For me?
Yeah, for both of us.
For the hairdresser?
For both of us. So you were most panic stricken about the anesthesia. So you get the anesthesia, and how did that feel? And what did you say?
Well, okay, right. They're like, all right, 6 weeks, we're having your surgery. Oh, okay, rock on. So I need to like fix my clientele. I need to do all this. Then I'm going to be gone for 6 weeks. Leah, Jen, help me out here. And they're like, bitch, we already had you covered. You told us we had it done. Oh, okay. So then I'm freaked the whole time. Anesthesia. So TGH is who
you kept calling the hospital. I mean, you were the whole thing.
I was talking to anybody I knew, right? So TGH is the one that told us. They're the ones that messed up, but they're also the one that told us, right? And then Tess got us in with Christy. Christy got us in with Dr. Spees. Dr. Spees is like, oh yeah, potato. It's easy. We're doing it. But I'm like, yeah, what about the anesthesia, right? Because with my type of epilepsy, when my brain rests, I'm season out.
It's game on.
Season out.
It is game on.
Seizure. So I just wanted to know about that. I'm like, what do we do? How does this happen?
But you were so scared. You're like, I'm going to have a seizure and be stuck in my head. And don't let me be stuck in my head. And if I'm stuck in my head, please pull the plug on me. I mean, we went from like having kidney cancer to you're going to be a vegetable in like a day.
But it's not even the vegetable. It's about being stuck in your head. And I don't, like we can again talk about that at some other point. But like being stuck in my head is the scariest place to me, not because like, oh, you deal with your stuff. It's because like I know what's going on around me. I can hear you talking, and I'm like, I can't engage, I can't communicate, I can't like nothing.
Right.
So turns out that the anesthesiologist is a client from the salon, right? And I was even nervous about that. I'm like, oh my God, he's going to see me naked. And then he's going to be like, oh, I'm here to have my hair done with Sue and Eden. Hey, I've seen you naked. And I'm like, what is happening? But he's like literally the best of the best. And sometimes I'm like, how do you say this properly? But the nurse anesthetist was like,
I definitely can't say that with my Invisalign right now. Yeah.
Everybody's like, yeah, you're fine, whatever. So I'm like, but how does that happen? How does that happen?
You could not stop asking questions. I was like, shut up already. Somebody give her the damn drug.
And one thing, do you remember this? I refuse to do too much research because I'm like, what if it's so awful? I'd rather just find out on my own and figure it out from there.
So what did you say? Okay, because I want the people to hear. If you remember, what you get the anesthesia shot and you said... Do you remember? Because I'm going to say it if you don't.
I see my cells replicating.
Yes. Instantly, you're like, whoa. Because you've never done drugs. And I'm here like, what does that feel like? Can I have some?
Oh my gosh. But it's like, I could see these like cells replicating. And then later on, that was what was on the TV. And I was like, oh my God, remember? That's what I said. That's what it looked like. And it was just very strange. But I'm like, what are you going to have ready for me? What do you have ready for me if I seize out? They're like, Ativan, quick, done.
They were ready. They didn't care. They're like,
I'm like, but
shut up,
what if a needle or something? He's like, he didn't say this exactly, but he's like, my hand is through your guts. It's not laparoscopic. Like I've got it. Like, I'll just hold on. Again, he didn't say that, but that's what he insinuated. Maybe, I don't know.
And then what did you say when you came out of anesthesia? Do you remember? Do you want me to say it?
Oh yeah, for sure. Wait. I mean, who cares? Like, fuck it, right? Just say it.
Pound Town. You kept saying Pound Town.
Pound Town, take me to Pound Town. Pound Town.
And I was like, you did such a great job. And you're like, I didn't do a good job. They did a good job.
Why did I sound like this?
Oh, you sounded like a total crazy person.
Why did I sound like that?
I don't know. There was like a tube in your throat or something.
Whatever. We don't care.
Okay, so those are like the funny highlights of the cancer. We can go through.
And we're laughing the whole time, right? Because it was right before Christmas. So we called it my Christmas cancer.
Your Christmas cancer.
Christmas cancer.
Yeah.
Again, another joke.
And then the guys the whole time was like, my hand was in there. It's a cut in your side just enough for your hand to be in.
I know.
That we couldn't let that go either.
You were like, what determined that? He's like, oh, I just needed it big enough to get my hand through.
Yeah.
And operate on your organ. And bleh.
And then when they told you they had to move your bowels around?
No. Immediately no. In the drain.
In the drain.
I mean, and two, this was the other thing. I was like, oh, after all these years, probably a decade, I'm able to cash in on my Aflac.
Oh, yeah, you were so excited. Oh
I
my
was
God.
like so excited.
You're like, I've been paying this cancer policy
And that's
for
it.
like a year.
But that's it. I got the cancer policy. Deep down, I knew. It was only a matter of time.
Unbelievable. You like should be a medium or something.
Probably not, because then it's like other people's stuff.
Yeah.
That's hard. So, moving forward. Pressing on.
I don't know how long we've been talking or how much time we have, but I do want to touch on something funny.
Do you want to touch on it? Okay.
I think it's funny. Can you tell the people how many times you've been married?
Why do you think that that's funny?
Because it is just, I don't know, it's just funny to me.
That's neat.
You like that?
Yeah.
Okay, so I feel like divorce is its own whole episode.
And also too, like, I don't want to make too late of it because
I mean, we've both been divorced.
Right. And it's quite sad, really.
Yeah, divorce is a big deal.
Yeah.
So we're not here to laugh about it, but it is something we both experience.
Right.
So I think that, to have its own episode about it, but just so people know, when we talk about stuff, it's because we've lived it, right? Or we have personal experience about it.
Right. Not theoretical knowledge.
Yeah, not theoretical. We're not Googling like things that would cause grief. We're going to talk about things that we've lived. Yeah.
That's life.
Yeah, that's life. So, I've been divorced once.
I've been divorced twice, married thrice
now. I think divorce twice is good. I think we're gonna stay married.
I think third time's a charm for the marriage.
Yeah, for the
not
marriage.
the divorce.
Right. Yeah. Do you? The divorces are very personal for you. So is that something that you want to touch on?
Yeah. I think because there are 1,000 million people out there, just like I was about.
Yeah.
I don't think it's like taboo or there's a stigma because I don't feel that way. I know that there are people that do feel that way, but I don't feel that way. My first divorce was like it was big and sad, you know, because there was a gender conflict.
Yeah. Well, that was the divorce where you're like, I'm gay and I can't stop being gay.
Right. It's, you don't get to stop that. But I was always really good about love is love, right? Like, this is what we're doing, whatever.
You also had a hard time saying no.
But did I? Because I say no to a lot.
But
I don't know. I thought like, all right, well, this has worked for so long.
Yeah.
I love the guy and he loves me. And it just
you knew
seemed,
you were gay.
Yeah, I was always going to be gay.
Yeah.
And my dad said that to me 4 weeks before we're getting married. He's like, don't you think that there's a little gender challenge there? Because there was. But, my parents are going to support me and whatever I did. So there we were.
Yeah. So that divorce was it was one of those where it's like nobody was mad at the other one.
Oh, I think he was.
Well, I'm sure after 8 weeks in the whole marriage, I'm sure there was anger, but it wasn't like you cheated on me, I cheated on you. No. It wasn't like bad blood.
No.
Yeah.
No, not. I mean, there's definitely, I'm sure, bad blood because there were definitely some things that happened. I don't know, that could have been interpreted a little strangely by his family, but neither here nor there. But yeah, like that's hard because you don't just divorce the person, you're divorcing that family, and
Yeah. Oh yeah, you were intertwined. Yeah.
I was deep into that family.
Okay, so then your next one.
Yes. And I mean, I was like, yeah, this is it. I'm with my gal. This is it.
Did you get married to a woman?
A woman.
Next. Someone that you went to high school with.
Yeah. And, that was really great. But our lives and our choices were just different. And I didn't know how that was going to change or come together. And I feel like she was compromising herself to please me and vice versa. And that is like no way to live.
Yeah.
That is a no way to live.
For sure. I can feel that.
Yeah. Yeah. But again, not that any of those were funny, but I'm like, of course of course I'm divorced. And I remember I've been at my salon for 16 years. So my clients have seen this, right? And there's a little bit of embarrassment that comes with it. And I'm not sure why. Maybe it's the failure part of it.
Right, of course. Well, of course. I mean, I think it's not embarrassing, but it's hard to say, yeah, we're getting a divorce. I mean, I tried to say we were separated for the first
I was
6 months.
what is this, 1992? We're getting separated.
Leave me alone.
And I think I even said, are you legally separated?
I didn't know you can legally separate.
Yeah. But neither one of us had kids. So it was like easier.
Okay.
That was easier.
Okay. And you still have clients now, right? That think that you're with a man.
Yeah, I think this is going to be interesting. You know, if they are listening, they're going to definitely get some insight. And some of them I think will be very surprised, because if they're like, oh, how's your husband? You know, I kind of go with it, because there were a couple of them that like absolutely did not believe that I was gay.
Yeah.
Because at work, you know, you only talk about so much, and there are certain people that, you know, don't support you because of conversation you've had. And I'm not trying to hide myself, but I'm also like, what's the point of the conversation?
Yeah.
And if you don't want to come see me because I'm gay, that's sad for you.
Yeah. And I think divorce is like its own whole thing. That could be someone we have, you know, a lawyer or a therapist or something like that on here to talk about. But again, just to touch on, you know, we've both been through it. I think mine was a little deeper of a cut.
Let's switch this mic and this camera on you.
Awkward. Okay. What do you want to do? What do you want to talk about?
I don't know. Just like tell me, like, how were you like, yeah, this is it. And then, oh yeah, this isn't it.
How was I like, this is it that I'm getting a divorce, or this is it that
this is it? Like, oh my God, I'm getting married. And then you're like,
Okay. So I think my ex-wife and I had a torrid love affair. That was like my MO. Like I would be with someone and then I would have a torrid love affair and that person was someone else.
That was, baby.
That's how you and I got together the first time. And I was, before I met her for the second time, I was in a relationship with an older woman. I know we're laughing. And so I was there with her for about 2.5 years. And then I went back, you know, to find my ex-wife just to like see what she'd been up to. And I think it was just, through lots of therapy, I had this need to save people again, right? And to figure out, I was Captain Save-A-Ho. And I needed to...
Not that she was a hoe. It's just like a term.
That was a term, right? And but in reality, through therapy, it was because I really needed to save myself. I felt like no one saved me at a certain time, yada, 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 vomit. So anyway, so we get together. She was a really fun time, really good time. Like if you know her, you like to party with her. Like she was just a good time.
She always seemed like a fun time. Not that I know her personally.
Yeah.
I mean, I've met her, you know, but... Yeah. I mean, she did, right? Yeah. Social media or just like her friends or you guys, she just always seemed
we were
like
always
so
like
fun.
Everything that was like a holiday, so she was definitely a partier, right? And it was fun for that portion of my life. Okay. And I think we grew in different directions. I think I was trying to turn her into someone she wasn't. Right. I was trying to force her into a position that she really didn't want to be, but I think she was doing to make me happy to an extent. And then she started to, you know, not need me so much and wanted her freedom and wanted to do all these things, but I was very unable to let go of that. You know, I was still very kind of controlling, and I think now looking back, right, you leave a divorce and it's easy to say like, oh, she did this, she did that. I was, you know, terrible in my own right in a lot of ways. So I don't want to discredit that, but you know, we got married because we were young. I was like 24, 25, and I was like, this is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to get married. You're supposed to have a house, and then you're supposed to have babies. That's what I thought I was supposed to do. You know what I mean? So let's doing what I think the social norm was telling me to do. But I did love her. You know, I'm not gonna lie, I did love her.
Oh my God, yeah. For sure.
And I think when we decided to get a divorce, it was definitely not something that was easy. It was definitely hard and challenging, and there was a lot of like fuck yous back and forth. But we were going in different directions, and it was the first time in my life that I left a relationship, or she could say she left me or whatever, not to be with someone else, but I was fighting for myself. Right. And so it was the first time that I really learned to love myself. So I was fighting for myself. And I knew that we were both trying to be people we weren't in order to make this relationship work. And it just wasn't going to end well, and it didn't end well. But I think now we're both better people for it. I don't speak to her. I don't know her or see her, but just, you know, from social media, she looks super happy. So, and I think, and obviously it got me you. But I needed to go through that in order to, I think, love you properly in the way I can now, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I think each of those marriages taught us something to be able to prepare us better to be in this marriage.
Correct. Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super crazy.
And here we are.
Here we are.
A whole new world.
Awesome. Okay, great. Well, I think that this was a really juicy episode. Juicy. Lord knows what we're going to talk about next time. I think next time we're going to have a guest.
Well, we might do another episode or two and then have Marissa.
Okay.
But we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out.
Cool. Well, thank you everyone for listening. We hope you had a good time, and we will see you guys later.
Bring it up top.